From the News Channel 8 studios, let's talk live with your hosts, Natasha Barrett and Melanie Hastings.
With the rising cost of college tuition these days, the idea of higher education can seem almost impossible, but it's not. You just need to have a plan in place. Ann Dolin is an education expert, and Natalie Davis is a financial advisor, and they're here today to share some information every parent needs to know. Good to see you.
Thank you. Great to
Hope
be
your
here.
summers are going well. Well, getting into the right college seems like a dream for many kids. Of course, paying for it is another story.
Yeah.
So, Ann, what are parents' biggest concerns about getting into and then paying for a college education?
Well, there are a couple of them, Melanie. The first is that the competitiveness seems out of control these days. Because of the rising cost of college, competitiveness is rising as well. So more and more kids are vying for spots at public universities. You know, at a school like UVA, the average grade point average of incoming freshmen is 4.2, which is unheard of. And at University of Maryland, it's a 4.0. So kids are finding that it's harder and harder to get into these schools, and then once they get in, it's so tough to pay for it. You know, at Johns Hopkins, $56,000 a year at an elite private school. University of Maryland, $19,000, and UVA, $21,000 a year.
Staggering, isn't it? Yeah, it absolutely is. So, Natalie, what do you think is the best way that parents should start saving for this huge expense they know is coming down the road?
Absolutely, Melanie. We get in front of clients all the time. You know, really the best plan out there, one of the plans we use most often, and we tell, you know, our clients is to use a 529 college savings plan. And really just sort of in a nutshell that enables parents to put away money as early as when children are born. It grows tax-free. So hypothetically, for a parent with a newborn, if you were to put away $1,000, say when they're born, and it grew to $10,000 when they were ready for college.
That'd pay for like one semester, right?
Well, exactly. So what we tell parents is start early, be diligent, to put money away on a monthly basis. The beauty of these plans is they're very flexible. They enable all that money to grow. We encourage them to have grandparents contribute for birthdays, things that kids don't need a lot of, you know, extra things to add to it. But there are a lot of tax benefits to the 529 plan for parents, tax deferral. You never have to pay taxes on the growth of the money. You can take it out for really any qualified expense. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful plan and tool for parents.
All right, so that's good for the planner. Now, what if somebody has, say, a 10-year-old and they haven't even thought about it yet? They've had other commitments for their money, you know? Just
Oh, absolutely.
trying to put food on the table and roof over their head.
Absolutely.
What do you say to them? Is it too late?
No, it's never too late. I really don't think it's too late. I understand we get in front of people as well who look at that this time in their life and say, wow, I have a 10-year-old and how much is college going to cost? So we run a lot of different models and show them estimates. A 10-year-old estimate in-state college, come college time would be for an in-state school about $65,000, okay, for 4 years of college in-state. So we run a lot of models. Basically, the other thing to consider is tuition consistently goes up about 5.5% a year. So we play that into the variable, and we say to people, if you can, to try to do it on a monthly basis. Just have it come out of your paycheck, you know, every month per child, and do it.
So what is that tuition number expected to be, you know, now and then 5 years down the road and then 10 years
Well,
down?
that number is based on a 10-year-old right now. If you have a 1-year-old right now, if you have a newborn or a 1-year-old right now, our models show us that at a 5.5% increase in tuition a year, that cost for a 4-year in-state tuition would be about $155,000.
It's just to the point now where it's getting to be prohibitive for most middle class Americans.
It's very hard. It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult. I mean, there are other avenues to look at. Say if you had a 16-year-old right now and haven't had the opportunity to put away, I mean, certainly Ann can speak to that better than myself in terms of seeking out grants. There seems to be more grant money, scholarship money, those types of things. They seem to be a little more keen on that, but parents obviously in that case need to be kind of a good advocate for their kids to pursue those.
Well, let's talk about that, Ann. There is financial aid.
Right.
What's the realistic expectation of somebody being able to qualify for it and for grants?
Sure. Well, there's all kinds of financial aid. You know, some parents think, oh, my child is going to get a full ride. That's not too typical.
Unless they're a sports star, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
At a big school.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Most of the time, they might get a couple $1,000s. Sometimes they'll get more than that. But we do have to remember that if you're looking at a private university for your child is likely to get some kind of grant, even if you're making over $110,000 a year. So parents often think, it's lower wage earners that are getting these grants for their kids, getting scholarships, but that's not necessarily the case. So the majority of kids that are going to college now are getting some form of scholarship or grant, which is different from a loan. So they're able to really reduce the cost of tuition in the majority of cases.
That sounds good. I guess you have to really kind of look hard under every stone and try to find these grants where they might be available. And some of them are very arbitrary, like if your last name is Watson or something, you can get a grant.
That's right.
It's not based on your GPA or on your athletic prowess or any sports, any other clubs you've been in. So you just have to look.
Yeah. I always tell kids, go and talk to your counselor at school. That's your first step, because often they can direct you along the right paths. And you're right, because there are some crazy scholarships out there from different clubs and different programs that you will have never heard of.
Right.
And your counselor is the first person who can point you in that direction.
Good to know. Now, the other thing that you can do to reduce your college tuition maybe is go to a community college for a couple of years and then transfer into a four-year school.
That is super popular now, Melanie. A lot of kids are going to Nova, Northern Virginia Community College, for example, for 2 years. If you have a certain GPA, you can gain acceptance to a more prestigious four-year university like William & Mary or UVA or Virginia Tech. It depends on the school, but many of the schools want to see about a 3.8 grade point average those first 2 years of college. And if you have that, then you may be able to go to those other universities. And right then and there, you've saved yourself almost 2 years of tuition.
Yeah, reduce the college cost in half. Yeah, that's great, but you have to really keep those grades up.
That's for sure. Yeah.
How prevalent is online education now? A lot of people trying to get those correspondence type degrees. Are more and more people doing that just because it's more cost effective? They can work and then they can work on their computer when they come home.
I definitely think so, and I think online education is probably going to change the cost of education. And thinking about, for say Johns Hopkins, $56,000 a year with a 5.5 rate of growth. What is that going to be like in 10 years for some of our kids? And you're right, it's cost prohibitive. So what is going to happen to drive down that cost? And it's probably going to be online education. It may not be getting your entire degree online, but it may be you take 2 classes on campus and you take 2 classes online, and those online classes are reduced significantly in cost.
Right.
I do think that's the direction education is going to go in the future.
Does it water down your degree any to get a degree from an online school?
It depends what you're looking at. Some of these online schools give degrees in different service avenues. So you might get a degree to be some type of computer programmer. And if you're looking for something very specific, it's fine. But if you want to go to graduate school, perhaps at an elite university, you're probably going to be looking at a more traditional school and not the online version.
So much to consider for those who are college bound.
Right.
Thanks so much, Natalie Davis, financial advisor and Dolin
Thank you for having us.
for coming in. Lots to mull over.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be back with lots more here on Let's Talk Live right after this.